going on, friends? This year Harley-Davidson has made some big strides in updating their motorcycles. We got an all-new Street Glide and Road Glide, and honestly, it's been nice to see Harley-Davidson come out with some new technology. They split the difference in the price on the bikes. We've got a lot more power in the motorcycles this year, but there is one big problem, and this could be potentially something later on down the road. And honestly, all the technology is great, but when it doesn't work, it can really cause some issues. And right now, with the new bikes going forward, as they age, we could have a really big problem staring us right in the face. It's been really awesome to see Harley-Davidson put some more technology in the bikes and kind of start moving forward a little bit. I don't really need all that technology, but traditionally with Harley-Davidson and touring motorcycles, you've always kind of got to where we had a stereo. Back in the day, we had an 8-track, then we went to the cassette player, then we had the AM/FM radio, CD player, you could plug your MP3 player in with a cord, and then eventually we went to Bluetooth, you could connect your phone to it. Now, all this has been well and good over the years, and it's kind of been isolated to its own little infotainment system, which, if it didn't work, oh well, whatever, we're old schooling it for the day. But as we've gone forward with Harley-Davidson, and we saw this in the CVOs last year with the Skyline OS, the Skyline operating system, everything is on that screen in the bike. And this year with the redesigned Road Glide and Street Glide, they have completely done away with all the analog gauges, and now everything is run through the Skyline OS system. So if that were to fail, you're basically looking at a blank screen. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now guys, there is nothing wrong with technology. Technology is great as long as it works. Now, on the flip side to that is it's really taken away from the simplicity of Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and especially as we're moving into these more electronically driven bikes. Now, basically what we saw in the new Sportsters, they did away with the analog gauges completely. Everything went to a digital gauge. Now, this year, Harley-Davidson took a big step and completely did away with all the analog gauges when it comes to the Skyline OS system. That's all you have now. There is no longer an analog gauge on the new Street Glide and Road Glide. Everything's run through a computer screen, basically. Now, as I mentioned previously, back in the day, everything was kind of on all the infotainment, everything was on one little screen in the dash. Now, of course, that kind of evolved over the years. It was button operated, then they did away with the buttons on the specials, and it was all touchscreen, kind of just like your cell phone. Now, the big issue that I have with this screen is if there's ever a problem, are you even going to be able to ride the motorcycle? You're basically going to have nothing. Key on if the bike even starts, but you're not going to have any gauges, you're not going to have your fuel gauge, you're not going to have any of the important things that really matter on the bike. It could be as simple as a fuse, it could be a pinched wire. Who knows? I've seen all kinds of issues when it comes to digital dashes in cars and even on Harley-Davidson motorcycles where, you know, as I mentioned back in the day, it wasn't a huge deal. So what? You didn't have your radio. You didn't have your GPS. Wasn't a huge deal. But now it's a huge deal because if you lose that screen, you've got nothing. You have no idea what's going on with your motorcycle. You don't know how much fuel you have, how fast you're going. All kinds of issues can arise from this by not having that digital display. Right now, it's not a huge deal because the bikes are brand new, and of course you're going to have a warranty. Now, the issue with the warranties are all well and good. What's not well and good about a warranty is having to make an appointment at the dealership, having to wait to get the bike in for said appointment, and as we all know, nothing ever fails when it's convenient, so technically you're going to be waiting maybe a week or two, maybe a little bit longer until they can get to it. Hopefully it's something simple that they could diagnose real quick and get you back on the road. But where this could be an issue is if this is going to happen, it's probably going to happen to you at a very inopportune time, and hopefully it doesn't ruin your trip to a big weekend, to a rally, or even Sturgis, or wherever you're headed. Either way, it's horrible to be down because you literally have no dash display in your bike. Now, the issue with anything new is that the aftermarket has to catch up. Now, fortunately, theoretically, it's going to be years down the road before these bikes really get basically massively into the market and they start trickling down used. And as they age, we all know, just like cell phones, these screens, these electronics, they're going to break down over time and they're going to fail. That's just inevitable. The one thing that we really got to hope for is that the aftermarket has caught up to being able to replace or repair these screens. And a lot of times, you guys may have run into this, you go to a dealership and you might have some kind of issue that even under warranty, they just never can absolutely straighten out. And a lot of times that is very common when it comes to electronic components, because at the dealership level, a lot of times there's not a whole lot that can be done when you really dive deep into those electronics, especially when it involves those screens like that. They pretty much just have to be replaced. Now, a lot of times there might be little shops on the side where they got somebody that specializes in repairing things like that. And if you can find something like that, you generally get pretty lucky. But when it comes to electronics, what we're already seeing on some of the twin cam bikes, they are basically discontinuing a lot of electronic parts that are absolutely critical on some of the older Harleys. Now, this is a big issue because the aftermarket really hasn't caught up to this yet. It's getting better, but it's really slow right now with the aftermarket getting caught up. So if you have an issue with an older motorcycle with some of the electronics on it, especially some of the modules that are used for the turn signals, that are used for the security systems, these things can absolutely disable the entire motorcycle, and you're absolutely screwed until you can get it tracked down and find a replacement part. Now, a lot of times what's happening now is you're having to go out and find used parts or find somebody that's really good with electronics that can bypass that and get you going down the road. Now, hopefully in the coming years, these Skyline OS systems are going to work great in these bikes, and we're not going to really have any issues for 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah, I'm being pretty optimistic there because I know electronics don't tend to live that long without some kind of issue. You got to think, those screens are basically a computer just like your cell phone. And sometimes you can get away with disconnecting the battery, hard resetting electronics like that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What I'm really concerned about and what I'm not really too crazy about is the fact of everything that's running through this screen. That's got your fuel gauge, that's got your speedometer, your tachometer, everything that's going on with the bike. All of your basically engine diagnostics, everything that you could get a light for to tell you that something's wrong on the bike that could possibly lead you in a direction to maybe get that fixed on the side of the road, it's all on there. And if that thing fails for whatever reason, you are really stuck. I mean, you are stuck, and then you're having to get that bike towed to a dealer to try to figure out what's wrong with it. And then we run into that whole thing is, well, I'm like 500 miles from home. What do? It's Sunday, they're closed. I can't even get in there till Tuesday. I got to get it towed somewhere. Yeah, a lot of issues can arise from these electronics. Of course, on the flip side of that, we were all worried about this when Harley-Davidson went to fuel injection and they got away from the carburetors. But all the fuel injection systems, all the sensors, everything on those, they tended to be pretty reliable. Not saying there weren't some issues out there that left guys on the side of the road just because of a sensor, but it does happen. It can happen. It's the risk we take when we start putting a lot of technology into bikes, but that's kind of the way the market's going and everybody's moving forward. Fortunately with Harley-Davidson though, as we all know, this is a big reason why a lot of us ride Harley-Davidsons, is as they age, we can continue to get parts for these. I've seen this with a lot of metric bikes from the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, when they started putting in the electronic displays and everything, they start to fail. And when they start to fail, obviously metric manufacturers, they don't continue making parts. If it's over 10 years old, even close to 10 years old, they basically obsolete them and you're SOL. You're looking for used parts or somebody that can repair what you have. And with Harley-Davidson, I don't really see that being a huge issue. But it does kind of scare me a little bit seeing that everything's going to be on that big display right in front of your face. And that's why I say this could be a really big glaring problem on used Harley-Davidsons in the coming years. I'm talking way down the road because these bikes just came out. So we're going to have to give it a chance and we're going to have to see what happens from there. But anyhow, guys, I want your opinion. What do you think of these new Skyline OS systems, this big screen on the front of the bike? Do you like it? Do you think it's cool? Do you really just want to keep it for like analog gauges? Because I don't see it going backwards. And honestly, I kind of see this technology trickling down into the Softail line at some point. But I want your opinion. What do you guys think of this? Is it a good move, bad move? Or are we just going to have to deal with it and go on down the road? But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But But till next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge those cars. I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.